Anyway, thank you all for coming this evening. I'm Orlando Menace, the director of the Creative Writing Program, and I'm so delighted and so thankful that Daniel Tobin agreed to come to our campus to give a reading as well as to visit my students in the graduate poetry workshop. Daniel Tobin is an exceptional poet and highly accomplished and a wonderful human being as well. And I will read his bio, and I will not do justice to all his accomplishments. So I want you to know that. And I will just read some of it. Daniel Tobin is the author of 5 books of poems: Where the World is Made, Double Life, The Narrows, Second Things, and Belated Heavens. The last 4 books were published by Four-Way Books in New York City. Among his awards are the Massachusetts Book Award in Poetry, the Discovery the Nation Award, the Robert Penn Warren Award, the Greensboro Review Prize, the Robert Frost Fellowship, the Catherine Bakeless Nason Prize, a Creative Writing Fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts, and a fellowship in poetry from the John Simon Guggenheim Foundation. His recent book of essays, Awake in America, appeared from our own press in 2011. And Daniel also edited the Book of Irish American Poetry from the 18th century to the present for our press in 2007. He is also the editor of Light in Hand, the selected poems, Lola Ridge of Lola Ridge, and with Pomone Triplet, Poet's Work, Poet's Play, Essays on the Practice and the Art of Poetry. Thank you all, and please welcome Daniel Tobin.
Thanks, Orlando, for that lovely introduction. I'm going to read some poems from Belated Heavens, and I'm going to read some new poems from a manuscript that will be published in the spring called The Net. But I wanted to begin the reading by reading quite a new poem, because I'm reading here at this wonderful institution, thanks to you all, but you all probably know recently that we lost a very great poet in Seamus Heaney, not that long ago. So I just wanted to read one short poem, which is dedicated to Seamus, who was my teacher, by the way, and I've written a book on him too. So, and it doesn't have a title yet. After all, this world without end, amen. The news coming on the news, on the phone. And it's as if I'm suddenly thrown back again to when I first picked up your cache of poems, and something tuned in me that made me turn leaf by sudden leaf like a tree in wind until the whole tree throws itself open, all root and writhe and airy reach at once. By your soul's path's end, you clarified the end. Poetry is a ratification of the impulse toward transcendence, given, and beyond altars dawn and monstrance noon. Still, to look inside your last look past the strand and find the living fountain plashing down. I'm going to read some poems first from Belated Heavens, and I guess sort of lift off that theme. So there'll be a couple of other sort of elegies floating in this reading. This is called The Afterlife. What's worse, nearly, than the nothing you hope it's not, is the thought of your many dead still nearby, watching you from behind your life's one-way mirror. They seem, as they hover behind the living screen, so close you almost sense them in the play of movement, glazing off your own form in a shopfront window, like the revenants of dogged film noir private eyes who shadow their suspect's every move, who ghost their oblivious quarry by blending into the crowd. Over time, they come to regard your every intimacy until you're naked as a newborn before the afterlife. The more so since you still believe you are alone, that your solitude, even in your happiest moments spent with your wife or your remaining friends, can be unfurled, the banner of your inmost self, even if it's blazoned with the pretentious seal of your delusion. Is it their own failures toward you summoning them back to the unresolving world? Or what agency do they report to with your foibles, mutterings, the wild outbursts of dread and dismay you thought no one would hear? The unguarded rituals performed behind the closed doors they walk through as if now were the moment they would make your arrest. Though maybe they're only present like the part of you that trails your life like a moon on a clear evening, a new moon burning its absent reflection in a pond, the light of its full face turned wholly to the other side. A number of poems in Belated Heavens and in the Net are sort of metaphysically driven poems, so I think I'll read a few more of these. This is called The Air Mattress. I suppose this comes out of the experience of looking at something quite ordinary and typical in life and trying to see if there's some deeper embedded significance to it. And obviously Seamus Heaney has a number of poems like that as well. A Turnip Snedder, for example. This is called The Air Mattress. The air mattress inflates out of nothing, so nothing fills this sealed plastic sheet elapsed on ground, while its little engine hums in motion, all space expanding with the driven sound. And underground, the turtle of creation swims through time, while on his back, the world's buoyant freight bobbles in tow below the firmament. Or it's the god sleeping, his oblivious cargo a lotus risen from his bright navel, the universe nothing more than his dream. Before the dream ends, infinity wings by. The god wakes, stretches, then dreams the next, that floats like this raft with its two dreamers under night's tent. O pale, belated heavens, and a low wind breathes. I'm at the University of Notre Dame, and I have a sort of Notre Dame poem. It's an Our Lady poem, but it's kind of I don't mean it to be at all offensive. It's sort of a pre-Our Lady poem. It's actually a monkey Our Lady, and it's called Rogue Madonna. There are a number of poems in this book, which are, I'm glad you appreciate that. Good, excellent. It's a number of poems in this book that lift off of television. We had a conversation, Jonathan and Peter were at dinner along with Orlando and Valerie, and for a while they were talking about film, and I do get some poems from film, but I actually have gotten some poems from TV. So this is from a National Geographic Explorer TV show that I saw once. And anyway, it's called Rogue Madonna. It means nothing, you know, it's very positive about Our Lady. It's just a preamble to the Notre Dame. Rogue Madonna. You swing through the broad, high branching trees, and what hangs from your breast, your stolen charge, flounces like a rag doll clung to by a child whose parents disappeared behind a train's ashen door. You hover above primate Eve as if what you hold could forever be held past passing eons and zones occluded by the pixelated boughs, the primeval receding in an advent of savanna to the long outering journey away from your defiant primal stare, AWOL as you are from your tribe, a savant among your kind who sense the economy of desire, how it burgeons then withdraws, zero bubble to zero in the horde. You circuit the canopy in arabesques, clasping the dead thing to yourself, the rent sock of your need that made the true mother cry out, and made the others clamoring there claw closer in common esurience. What stuns us is not your anxious grasp, the days of your body's failure to nurse, so the earnest TV voice encourages, but your pause in a kind of grim stillness, there on the limb limned by the camera's omniscient eye, playing at the source, the limp body fed from your barrenness. Still, an image like some immaculate mirage floats to mind with its flawless human face, a radiant all-mother gazing at us, past us, toward some distant Ignis that gathers everything into its brilliance. We, your wilier cousins, you, the living stones. And the child on her lap also gazing out, who will die in an ecstasy of tortured flesh, a plump icon already cognizant of this cosmos born in waste and burials. And you looking back, one of the going facts, beheld in your beholding as though transfixed by the low, verdant tremor of the bells. A number of poems that focus on beginnings, like that one. And the next poem I'm going to read is called A Palm Print in Lascaux. Has anybody been to the Lascaux caves in France? I don't think you can actually get in them anymore. I think they're all sealed off to preserve those amazing images on the walls made by our earliest ancestors. And you can go into a sort of proto or fake Lascaux now, where they've done it up as if you were going into the real cave, but you don't actually go into the real cave anymore. Pretty soon it'll all be like that. It'll all be virtual. Everything will be virtual. We won't even be here at poetry readings. It'll all be virtual. This is called A Palm Print in Lascaux. And it's in 5 short sections, and I'll just pause between the sections. It's kind of a fantasia. It's a sort of entering into Lascaux. I've never been to Lascaux either, so we're on the same page there. I'm just imagining myself going there. A Palm Print in Lascaux. I too want to reach behind the stone veil, to follow the rabbit down its winding hole into the whisper chamber. Bosses like sails billowing in an earthen wind. This first world with its presences recursive in the maze. Bison, ibex, mammoth, and stag. The steppe alive in limestone on the vaulted frieze. Down with my lamp to terra incognita. Magician in my skin cape, conjuring beasts. Trove of the underworld's infinite hat. Tallow smell above the axial gallery, an island of light in the hall of bulls, illuminates the surging cavalcade, as if stone had fixed itself from shifting clouds into these forms heard by the searching hand. Ochre hide, black blooms of antlers splay from a stag's head. Aurochs flaring horns. Something in the mind cleaves to this rock face, like a cave bear's tooth housed in its niche, scoured bones articulated in their graves. What hides, parietal, in the mask of dark? After image the child fashions in sleep, a drunk's tremens, a screensaver's bright mark, virtual gallop across the humming screen. In a high nave curving heavenward, where the blessed pose in their spirit ride, so these inhuman majesties surround the descendant. Flint-napped, finger-fluted, walls move, tangible air, a horse reels, heaved back like a penitent, the stunned, healed soul. The wounded man recumbent in the shaft awaits the bison's charge, arms outstretched to embrace what comes. Beside him, his staff floats in whitewash, where an all-seeing bird contemplates a beast, tail up, whose horned head dissolves into the membrane of the vision. skeletal soul, mean of the living and dead, first emigre to the haunts of the human, imaginer, your shadow runs like a breed through the living coverts of our sojourn. Glyph shapes, frescoes, graffiti on their stall. On Ellis Island once I saw a hand traced in detention beside the great hall, fingers flared like this one, spit painted in the cave, an earth and breath communion, as though the negative of a child's print. When the dying tallow lamp of the sun burgeons to nothing and snuffs the planet, there will be just such a form to absence, a space left in space, immaculate. That was cheery. Well, you have to come back from there. More water. I'm going to read a poem called Prayer. And it's a paradel. It's a form that's a very tight form. And it was invented by Billy Collins as a kind of joke of all those really highly repetitive forms. So here's how it sort of goes. It goes like this. There are 4 stanzas. The first 2 lines in the first stanza repeat exactly. The next 2 lines in the next the next 2 lines in the stanza repeat exactly. And then the last 2 lines in the stanza, since they're 6-line long stanzas, use only the words in the first 4 lines and no other words. You do that 2 other times, so a total of 3 times, and then in the last stanza, you use the words that you used before in the poem and no other words to make the last stanza. Don't do this at home. It's dangerous. It's sort of like a Rubik's Cube effect. And, you know, it was a joke form that Billy invented, and all of the articles are at the end, like that. But I thought, okay, the challenge has been thrown down. Let's see if I can make a poem that actually works as a poem without joking around about it. So this is called Prayer. There is something to be praised in repetition. There is something to be praised in repetition. For surely all life moves in seasons. For surely all life moves in seasons. Praise surely for all there is, seasons, life, moves in repetition to be something. Still desire for rest whispers in the body. Still desire for rest whispers in the body, like the hint of a lost name or a nagging song, like the hint of a lost name or a nagging song. Rest desires a name for the song, a hint, nagging, lost, like a still body in whispers. Let me wait, a novice, on nothing's threshold. Let me wait, a novice, on nothing's threshold, until the blown seed lifts on its diamond fulcrum, until the blown seed lifts on its diamond fulcrum. Novice, blown fulcrum, let me lift on nothing until its threshold awaits the diamond seed. Something waits for the body in whispers, diamond hint in seasons of repetition. Or surely it lifts on a still fulcrum. Let me rest, its novice, like all nagging life, until desire moves, blown seed, nothing's name. There it is, threshold, lost song, to be praised. I have this big Gothic window behind me, which I wasn't expecting, but now I have to read a poem entitled Heaven. And I don't think this really needs any kind of explanation. I think it's pretty straight up. Heaven. You love the conveyances of getting there, through realms of ether by fiery chariot, by carcoal across the western sea, or latched to a flying elephant's tail, the beast descended from Indra's palace in that Urdu story. Like black elk, you might suddenly be lifted on a cloud above wide blue plains and piled mountains to converse at length with stallions of the air. Or maybe, as in some strange Gnostic spell, You'll have to recite the secret names to rise safely above the region of archons who quiz the aspirant like border guards or bouncers at Zenith, the deity's exclusive club. Maybe you'll travel alone, transported in dream through porticos of light, so that everything you've done or known or loved falls away like shed skin, husk of self you leave behind. Or maybe you'll ascend the scales with friends, their names, hopeful, faithful, worldly wise, refinements from the gray flux of your life, so different from those earthly friends who sustained or failed you, or whom you failed, your denials dropped like crumbs on the path. Or maybe in your private Lauta Fantasia, Beatrice is the first crush you had at school, Trisha Bardo, her name the perilous interval the Buddhist dead endure to escape rebirth. Though where she leads you, the awkward kiss, closet games like 7 Minutes in Heaven, the travails, failures, and short-lived conquests leading to long love, sweet ease of middle age, feels more like the journey you already made than the one you will, the one you still fear. How hard it is now to believe that nothing isn't all after all, that there yet are worlds where the dead convene in gardens or splendid homes, naked or clothed in robes, or just in light, and angels, their bodies unburdened of entropy, couple for millennia with undying passion, and where history, brutal allegory, evaporates, so suffering finds redress, the starved are fed, the dead reassemble in their new spiritual limbs. At least let the last journey be like Rev Nachman's. The celestial orchestra heard faintly at bedtime until he wandered outside, unable to turn back, only to find himself sustained on air, and no melodrama of souls whirling upward in their frozen tornado of eternal praise. Or let it be like that obscure couple carved in relief on a cathedral wall, among the line of souls, the only two holding hands, as though their mortal love persisted undiminished, the divine life subsumed in their simple gesture, and eternity were only a short walk together to that still small place where memory is healed. I'm going to turn to some new poems now. That will be in the net when it comes out in the spring. This first poem is called The Jetty. And it's one of those poems, it actually looks kind of like a free verse poem, but it's sort of a loose blank verse that I've just kind of separated out and spread along the page a bit. And it's one of those poems where the title drives through the stop sign at the end of the title, right into the first line. The jetty reaches a stone sentence across the bay. Its jigsaw syntax entered like hopscotch from Land's End. Enter the way wrens step on sidewalks, crushed shells looking for seed, as if unsure of earth, until it feels natural to be outside the known scope. And you follow the jumbled puzzle out farther than you first expected, toehold by toehold, to where the broader slabs give certain footing, away over water, Appian you think, miraculous the way it seems to float on tidal flats, beach grass wavery as prairie sprouting from wavelets, tinsellet, the whole horizon threatening to blend earth, sky, and sea, though sea, sky, and earth stand poised pristinely on the glinting edge. So you come to feel yourself suspended in a fluency that would be ethereal if not for the thump-thump of a festival drumming intermittently from town, over parabolic sands like finest brushstrokes lacing the shoals. Shallows of moon snails, whelks, skate eggs, these currents like sand coils redoubling in pools where shucked pilings, scarified granite, brace to colonies of rockweed that flail in sediment's plangent ooze, the soft siphons of lowlier lives shooting invisibly from under. trumpet worms, dog winkles, bits of swamp pink and poverty grass, awash in foam the color of meringue, salt spray rust in the tide's recursive flow, a slow parting of the waters revealing articulations of tablets into shifting dunes that have arranged themselves into just this measure, as if to say, nothing needs you here. Not the sundews and sanderlings, plovers, hovering gulls, not even the lighthouse at Long Point, a beacon at the brink of the human. You are an earth star tumbling its spores into the living waste, the risen pleroma, your name a net caught in the hollow between stones, while the tide sounds the length of this transit, susurrant fountain, a summoning from under, and all of it gone by evening. Suppose